Somewhere in the Tokyo Bay, a pleasure boat is found out at sea, but there are no passengers on it. The Coast Guard goes in to check it out. Inside the boat, they discover a strange origami and a document. Suddenly, a large explosion occurs near the boat, coming from the water, and an underwater tunnel begins to leak what looks like a lot of blood. Yaguchi, who is the Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary of Japan, is informed about this incident. He meets with other important government officials to discuss what happened. Everyone is unsure about what is causing this, but they are all shocked when they see the disturbing footage of the red liquid spreading in the ocean. The government quickly starts evacuating everyone from the tunnel, but they can hear loud noises coming from underneath. Civilians who are filming the situation start to see what seems to be a large creature moving in the area of the incident, and Yaguchi sees this footage online as well. He tries to warn the Prime Minister about the findings, but he is laughed at for making such a ridiculous claim. Just then, a live broadcast from a news crew captures the creature, shocking everyone as they gaze at the horrifying sight. The monster starts moving closer to land and into the canals, causing immense destruction as it tears down boats and bridges in its path. After watching the footage repeatedly, the scientists notice what looks like legs on the monster. They warn the Prime Minister that the creature may be able to walk on land. The government leaders do not believe this to be possible. They advise the Prime Minister to calm the public in a press conference, assuring everyone that they are safe. Just as the Prime Minister is about to finish his speech, he is urgently notified that the monster has indeed made it into the city. People start running in fear as the streets become chaotic. The giant monster chases everyone away with its massive body. It moves closer to crowded areas, and large amounts of blood drip down from the creature's gills, most likely because it cannot breathe without water. The government begins to make plans to contain the creature and warns the public of the potential danger, but the monster continues to destroy everything in its path. As the creature moves, its huge body topples buildings, causing terrible damage and leaving a path of destruction. Even though the monster moves very slowly for its size as it seems to be crawling, the density of Tokyo allows it to cause a lot of damage in a very short time. The government thinks about using military forces, but they remember they must first evacuate the people from the area to avoid any collateral damage. An evacuation order is issued, but it is nearly impossible to clear all of Tokyo using available transportation in the limited time they have. People are instructed to leave their cars and follow the police instructions to flee from the damage that is about to be done to the city. The monster keeps wreaking havoc in the city, flipping over many cars while crawling across major intersections. It climbs upon buildings and easily brings them down, killing anyone inside who did not evacuate in time. Seeing the devastation the monster is causing, the governor of Tokyo demands help from the self-defense forces to stop it. However, the military can only be used under an attack from another nation, which means the Prime Minister must make an exception to send in the army. Under this unusual situation, Japan's leader agrees to deploy the military. Helicopters are sent to take down the creature, and ground troops work to evacuate the area. The giant monster continues to move across the city, destroying everything in its path. Suddenly, it stops and collapses, probably because it cannot breathe properly outside of the water. The leaders are puzzled by this change but notice the creature is behaving strangely as it stands up using its gigantic legs. The monster begins changing its outer color to a deeper red and grows arms from where its fins were. It rapidly doubles in size before roaring fiercely. As it continues moving toward the city, it now towers over most buildings. Its movements become faster and more coordinated as it can now stand up and swat away trains and vehicles with its tail as if they weigh nothing. The helicopters arrive in the area and fly closer to the creature, but the pilots see that their target looks different from the earlier reports. They reposition themselves and prepare to fire, but after learning that the evacuation is complete, the Prime Minister orders an attack. The soldiers quickly notice that there are still civilians on the ground, so the leader orders the helicopters to retreat temporarily, not wanting to risk civilian lives and tarnish the military's reputation. The monster spots the soldiers retreating and seizes the opportunity to run back toward the ocean. Escaping into the Tokyo Bay, the government officials examine the damage after the monster has retreated, and Yaguchi feels they have failed the public because they could have reacted more effectively. The military searches for the creature in the waters but cannot locate it. The general suggests they can only prepare for when it appears again. They get ready with a mix of tanks, artillery, and air strikes for when the monster shows up next. Yaguchi is also instructed to assemble a task force to develop an effective defense plan against the creature. A biologist wonders if the monster has different stages that it can change into, and the others discuss where it could gather the energy needed to fuel its massive body. The most logical conclusion is that it can somehow undergo nuclear fission biologically. After analyzing data about the monster, the team succeeds in confirming this theory, as the creature emits radiation wherever it goes, which also poses a danger of radiation poisoning for the residents. Yaguchi receives a call from a woman named Kyoko, representing the US president. She wants the Japanese government to find a professor named Goro Maki, who predicted the monster would appear. Apparently, this professor was expelled from Japan for opposing the government due to his strong dislike of nuclear energy. He was the owner of the boat that disappeared at the beginning of the film. After giving Yaguchi documents about the professor found on the pleasure boat, Kyoko also shares some crucial research done by the professor. He named the monster Godzilla, which means the embodiment of a god. Kyoko's report shows that humans have been dumping a lot of radioactive materials into the ocean, where this creature coexisted with the radiation and eventually evolved. The woman also reveals a large diagram left behind by Dr. Maki, but nobody can understand it. Yaguchi tells the team to study it immediately because it may contain the secrets for defeating the monster. After studying the radiation Godzilla produces, the group is stunned to find a new isotope that is not on the periodic table. This suggests that its body might contain unknown elements. They also learn that the monster has 8 times the genetic information compared to humans, and it's capable of self-mutation, making it the most evolved creature on the planet. The team thinks the creature's blood functions like a coolant for its radiation, which is why Godzilla ran back to the ocean after it transformed, needing to cool down its body. They theorize that if they can force the monster to use up its nuclear energy and then inject it with coagulants, they can freeze the monster using its own cooling system. Before they can put their plans into action, they find out that the monster has appeared again, but this time, it has grown noticeably larger. The creature has also transformed its skin into a material like armor and turned its tail into a giant weapon that towers over its own body. The monster steps onto land and devastates everything in its path while people flee from it. The monster moves into neighborhoods, inflicting even more destruction than before. Godzilla now towers over even the tallest buildings and easily demolishes houses with each step. As it keeps advancing, everyone realizes that Godzilla is heading toward Tokyo again. The government knows they must act quickly before the creature reaches the capital or damages a nuclear facility, which would lead to even greater disaster. Since Yaguchi's plan is still incomplete, the Prime Minister has no choice but to send in all of the Japanese military against the giant monster. The army prepares for the creature's arrival, and tanks line up according to the plan. Helicopters are sent toward the giant as the first wave of attack, and they start firing with autocannons, landing many hits on the monster's face. The attacks don't work, so they switch to heavier ammunition, but the creature still seems unaffected. The Prime Minister gives the all-clear to use any military weapon available, and the squadron starts shooting numerous missiles at Godzilla's face, causing countless explosions around its head. People are shocked when, out of the smoke, the creature emerges unharmed even after the furious airstrikes. The military shifts to Plan B and orders all the tanks to focus on shooting at the monster's legs, causing a continuous stream of explosions. The artillery joins in, landing powerful hits on the monster's face, but Godzilla still marches forward without showing any signs of being hurt. Eventually, the intense barrage slows the monster as it approaches a bridge. The military sends its deadliest weapons to take down Godzilla, and planes begin dropping bombs on the creature, creating huge blasts that engulf the monster. They keep dropping bombs which explode fiercely, and eventually, the monster starts to change direction. However, their attacks only make Godzilla angrier. It throws the bridge toward the tanks, forcing them to flee for their lives. The massive concrete projectiles destroy a lot of vehicles and crash into the command post at the same time. Godzilla emerges from the dust undamaged and keeps advancing toward Tokyo while the military watches the monster hopelessly after running out of ammunition. Now they must request help from the United States to deal with this huge beast. The Americans send 3 stealth bombers toward Tokyo, but the Japanese soon realize that the blast radius will cause more destruction than the monster itself. The government quickly orders the military to move the civilians underground to escape the incoming explosions. The government officials must also move away because they are unsure if the Americans will be able to stop Godzilla. Meanwhile, the enormous creature stands in the city, its body glowing red from radiation inside. The stealth bombers drop many bombs on the creature, penetrating its skin and exploding, sending blood flying everywhere as Godzilla screams in pain. The monster then begins to evolve again, turning the red glow within its body into a bright purple. Godzilla opens its mouth as the light shines even brighter. It starts to expel black smoke from its mouth, which turns into flames that rapidly consume the entire city, destructively sweeping across its path. The flames then focus into a powerful plasma beam that the monster shoots upward into the sky, destroying one of the planes in the process. The Americans keep dropping more bombs on the creature, but the giant closes its mouth and releases beams from its back that obliterate the bombs and the bombers at the same time. Godzilla then unleashes a blast toward the city, cutting through everything in its way, including the helicopter carrying the Prime Minister. The laser brings down many buildings and leaves the city burning behind it. After using all of its energy, the monster collapses and goes into hibernation while standing in the ruins of the city. Yaguchi survives the attack, but when he returns to the new headquarters, he notices that the Japanese government is in disarray after losing the Prime Minister and many officials. He is not ready to give up, as he still believes there is a chance to stop the monster that is now hibernating. A new Prime Minister is hurriedly appointed, but no one is happy to take up the leadership role in the middle of this catastrophe. Luckily, most of Yaguchi's team survived the attack in Tokyo, and he urges everyone to give their all to save Japan from further destruction. The team begins to gather various coagulants from different companies and retrieves DNA samples from the monster that remains in the city. The US government insists on collaborating with the team, and together they discover from the monster's blood samples that it can reproduce asexually and spread across the planet. When American scientists hear this news, they report back to their government immediately, leading to a final decision to use a thermal nuclear bomb to destroy the creature. They calculate that if left alive, Godzilla could threaten North America, and the UN has agreed to this drastic measure. Yaguchi insists there is still a chance to save Tokyo with their plan to freeze the monster, as the UN should give the city time to evacuate the people. The team jumps into action quickly, needing a large quantity of coagulants and suitable mechanisms to deliver the chemicals, but their biggest puzzle is understanding the diagram that Dr. Maki left behind. After examining the origami left by the doctor, they finally figure out that the diagram is three-dimensional and requires folding to fully understand. Godzilla does not need nuclear waste as fuel, but instead consumes water and oxygen to create the isotope that gives it its power. The monster represents a major threat to humanity, but it also contains the key for human survival, as it can convert water into pure energy. This raises concerns that the coagulants might not work on this creature, and they need to understand the monster's molecular structure in order to adjust their solution. By working together with other countries, combining their quantum computers, the team manages to decipher the monster's unique elements and make the necessary changes for their plan. Kyoko also decides to help by personally staying and providing the team with drones and weapons from the United States. On the day before the nuclear strike, the Japanese government plans to capture the monster to save their country. They send trains loaded with explosives toward the giant creature, and as they reach it, they explode, awakening the massive monster from its hibernation. Numerous drones are sent toward Godzilla, and they start dropping bombs on the creature one by one, forcing it to expend energy by firing its laser at the machines. The attacks destroy nearby buildings and countless drones. However, eventually, the monster has to use less energy as it runs low on its nuclear power. Godzilla redirecting its energy beams to its tail and mouth continues to cause tremendous damage in the area. The attacks lose their strength quickly, and the plasma beams begin to turn into flames. They move to the next part of the plan by detonating buildings surrounding the creature, causing these structures to crash down on top of the giant. The falling debris knocks Godzilla to the ground, and its internal temperature begins to drop significantly as it runs low on energy. The enormous creature is knocked out after even more buildings crash down on it, giving the team the chance to send in soldiers to inject the blood-freezing agents. Trucks surround the monster and start injecting the coagulants into its mouth, but after using only about 20% of the necessary amount, the creature wakes up. Godzilla opens its mouth and releases an angry plasma beam toward the trucks, killing everyone near the area in a massive explosion. The monster attempts to escape, but more trains are sent to crash into the giant beast, creating multiple explosions that knock the creature down again. Additional trucks arrive to encircle Godzilla and resume injecting the coagulants, this time successfully giving the full dosage. However, the creature awakens again, tearing the vehicles apart as it stands up. It begins glowing purple as it tries to escape. Godzilla lets out a final roar, and its skin begins to freeze just like its whole body. The monster eventually becomes immobile as its core temperature drops to nearly -200 degrees. The people are amazed by their success, and a silence fills the air. The scientists also discover that Godzilla's isotope only has a half-life of 20 days, which indicates that the residents can return to their homes quite soon. The temporary government resigns along with the Prime Minister, allowing younger generations to take over and guide Japan into the future. Yaguchi decides to share all the data with other countries because he believes that the information could benefit all of humanity. However, what the people do not realize is that Godzilla was evolving before it was frozen, attempting to change into the very beings that defeated it as it recognized the power of human beings. So, what do you all think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy my videos, please click like and subscribe for more. I'll see you all next time.